Good evening, friends. My name is Tula Tzoras. I'm a claircognizant mentor and coach and the founder of the Areti Goddess events, and established to empower women to help change our statistics so that we can take our rightful place in the world as we deserve. And tonight, I want to welcome you to this week's YouTube Live. And it'll be great if you comment and let me know where you're joining from. And please feel free to comment, give us a thumbs up, share, subscribe to the channel if you coronavirus crisis, because that is what is relevant and what is really affecting us at the moment. And so coronavirus is not just the virus itself, but everything associated with it. It's affecting our whole lives. If we're not sick, or we're not sadly and tragically losing someone we love, we are experiencing a different kind of tragic loss, and that is life changes. And we've never seen them before. So there's a complete sort of breakdown of a system and structure that we've been conditioned for. So we're experiencing, unsurprisingly, feelings of loss, grief, panic, and they're flooding our entire universe. And honestly, who can blame us, right? We all know that major life changes usually cause huge stress and anxiety. So it's completely normal to feel this way. And of course, for people with a childhood and a history of childhood trauma, there is a relative difference to how we experience this crisis. So even though our amygdala, which is in our brain, it's our fight or flight response, is conditioned to go into flight even when we're, say for instance, we're put into our crib when we're kids, when we're between the ages of 0 and 7, we can develop feelings of abandonment. On the other hand, say that we have experienced childhood trauma between the ages of 0 and 7, then in any given situation of crisis, that response will be a lot more extreme and felt a lot more than a response, say, with a child who has developed slight feelings of abandonment. So it's all relative, and that's something that we have to take into consideration. In a very short space of time, necessities that we took for granted, like food, toilet paper in Australia, vitamins, supermarket goods, gone. Our schools, businesses, events, gatherings, shut down. Financial markets are crashing. Now, as an ex-actor and having collapsed with chronic fatigue syndrome, losing everything, experiencing hardship, I'm used to living in rags or riches alike. So as that is not the case, however, with most people, this is a very frightening prospect. And I don't mean to bring you down here, okay? People who previously made a great living are left with nothing, wondering how you will survive. So, my friends, how do we deal with this? My tip to you is to view the situation as it is, without judgment. Easier said than done, right? If you're a particularly judgy person, you can start by practicing non-judgment, say for an hour a day, and build up from that. Now, if you can consciously take the emotion out of it, giving yourself, of course, time for grief over what you have lost, you'll be able to come to a place of acceptance. And here is the benefit. What happens when we stop classifying things as good or bad, right or wrong? When we release judgment, we experience peace, right? And what happens when we can come to a place of acceptance? Then we can find our center amidst all the chaos and make conscious decisions that are going to be a lot more constructive than when they're based from emotion and we're jumping into action, right? So that's the benefit. You know, now, as the law of opposites goes, you will find the silver lining, perhaps other alternatives. There's always a silver lining in whatever is happening. So that is something that we can absolutely be sure of. Now, for instance, we're in isolation and online. We're beginning to call this the apocalypse, and rightly so. So let's now take a deep abdominal breath or two, in and out, and keep going until you feel calm. And if you're really anxious, you can always hold your breath after the in-breath and breathe out slowly and deeply. So let's find some calm before we go on, because this is not about bad news. Take a deep breath in, breathe out. You can keep breathing deeply and slowly for the whole of this session, okay? Because I want you to be calm, and there's good news. If we can see the dawn of a brand new era. Now that sounds exciting, right? Here is my message. It's time for real change. We're called right now for a complete overhaul in our perspective and the way that we live. And it is up to us to create the world we want to live in. How, you might say? Let's start with what we know. Number one, the law of opposites. Here are two ways that we can look at things. Yes, this is a crisis, but is it a crisis? Or is it an opportunity for new possibilities? When we accept something, we open ourselves to our source of inspiration and we become resourceful. So all of a sudden, all these new ideas come flooding in and we look at new possibilities. And it is how we look at things. Do we look at the negative? And of course, at the moment, how can we not? But do we look at the positive and what we can actually create? The law of opposites. You cannot deny it. It's always there, right? Number two of the things we know is just as the certainty as we know we have to pay taxes, we also know that everything passes and everything changes. So that's another thing we know as a fact. Number three, we cannot control people, places, or things. What can we control? We can control our own reactions to what happens, right? We can actually find our center and come from a place of peace, even if the whole world is falling apart. Here's another fact. Intuitively, we knew something like this might happen. How do I know this? I know this because 87% of us actually wake up feeling bad. And I know this because, in fact, we have belonged to the system we live in. So, you know, it's what we call the rat race, or as I call it, the matrix we live in, right? Here's another fact we know. The virus still has an 80% recovery rate. Here's another thing we know. When a crisis happens, our humanity takes over and we remember what is really, really important to us. Our fellow human being, our loved ones, our families, right? So here we are in crisis, deprived of things we took for granted, like basic necessities, travel, money. There are many theories about how this virus happened and what's going on, and I'm not really going to go into that, okay? I'm not going to go into who is responsible. One thing that we do know, all we can deal with, is what is at the moment. And although there are many theories, there's no doubt that there is chaos and panic, and the global reaction on all levels has been amplified by the media through no fault of their own. Again, I'm not placing blame, right? We have really quickly gone online and gone into social distancing and isolation. So perhaps when we're not busy being in panic, perhaps we have time now to reflect, to rest, to meditate, and to get in touch with ourselves. Now, more than ever, we're connecting with others virtually, and here's the great news in the law of opposites. A lot of groups are forming online on social media, support groups that we can join and come together because the internet is worldwide. So even though we are in isolation, we can still be together. I encourage you to join these groups. And there's great solutions, alternatives, ideas, and support happening right now. Now, as 1 in 2 of us suffer from chronic illness and we're in isolation a lot, I am a chronic fatigue sufferer, for instance, I can tell you that you can actually make the best of it. Now, if you really think about it, aren't you exhausted by the rat race? So what is the panic about at the moment? It's actually about having to pay our rent, our mortgage, our bills, right? So what I want you to do is stay tuned, because I've actually had guidance about what we can call for and a great solution. I was actually thinking how lucky I am that last year I took the Areti Goddess online program online, because the word is that if you don't have a business online in the future, you won't have a business. If ever Goddess says you had an idea for a business, and specifically online, and the Areti Goddess online program is absolutely perfect for you. I encourage you to book for a free coaching call, and the link is below, okay? As a coach, I generally work on eliminating destructive patterns to free people to achieve your goals. Now, as some of you will know, I often talk. Here we are again. I just had a call, and somehow it's coming up on my actual computer. So sorry about that. Now, as I was saying, I often talk about people repeating destructive patterns over and over again, expecting different results. And that, my friends, is the definition of insanity. That is also what we're now experiencing on a massive global scale. We're attempting to find solutions using structures we know aren't going to work in this particular situation. A prime example here in Australia is the government doing their best, announcing stimulus packages to help us during these extreme times. Yesterday, the Centrelink website crashed. Hordes of people lined up to Centrelink in absolute panic to claim benefits. The system crashed because it's actually not built for that. One great development we're seeing in the law of opposites is our political parties actually coming together without their own agendas to work together, as this is bigger than all of us. The problem that we are facing is we are still operating toward saving our billions and saving the system. So here is my guided message to you. Please don't shoot the messenger, okay? Perhaps it's time to recognize and acknowledge that there is no way forward, no way to go than to let go. And to change things, we must change. We're called to develop acceptance, surrender, let go, and be open to a brand new era. An era of humanity, community, sustainable solutions for our future, coming back to what is really important to us, our families, our loved ones. It is no longer about ego and what's in it for me. It is becoming about spirit and how can I help? Easier said than done, you might say. I've got bills to pay, right? Over the last 2 weeks, I've shared ways to overcome our fear and fear of change. And yes, it is scary going to the unknown. There is no doubt about that. And yes, we did have bills today. And I want you to notice here the operative word, which is did. Here is my guide. Doesn't it make sense then to also freeze our bills and debts? Whilst the government here is negotiating with banks and landlords, trying to find solutions, there is a simple solution to minimize our panic. Why not make that a regulation as well at the moment? Here's an idea. We're supplied with what we need for our necessities and what businesses need to survive with our stimulus package. And then how about spending some of that stimulus package to satisfy landlords, for instance, and satisfy banks and all those organizations that we need to pay bills to? Doesn't that make sense? What do you think? Let me know if you agree in the comments. If you agree with that, businesses close down, everything closes down, our income is no longer there. Why don't we call for our rent, our mortgage, our bills also to freeze for that period? That is my guidance for you, my friends. Again, please don't shoot the messenger. And I share this guidance with all humility because I am not the government, okay? I am not assuming that I know all the intricacies and that I know what needs to be done. All I'm doing is sharing guidance that I have received for a simple solution as claircognizant. So, please stay safe. Drink lots of water, hot drinks, warm lemon water first thing in the morning. Wash, sterilize, and stay warm. Apparently, don't know if this is true, but apparently heat kills the virus. So, you know, you can do things like point a hairdryer and breathe the hot air in. There you go. So until next time, wishing you amazing success. Please stay safe. And I hope that this helps empower you. See you next week, same bat time, same bat channel, my friends. Bye for now.